Hey guys, Youth here. Gonna do another portfolio update this week. Reminder that later this week on the 18th, aka Friday, I will be depositing another $2,000 into the account as for my monthly contribution thingy majigger bobber. So yeah. Um. so unfortunate news was so actually the account went up pretty high, up to let's see. Only down $356, or something like that, um, recently, right? But then it went way back down. So you can see up here, it was at $857 and then went back down here. Which is very interesting because of the kind of the inverse market we're in right now, or there was quite a bear market, obviously with Trump tariffs and stuff like that. But MSTR somehow managed to like kind of survive quite a bit, to be honest. It was kind of surprising. You can see here. So it came out of nowhere. This was before the market kind of jumped back. So fortunately, we're down quite a bit on this. Obviously, still down pretty heavily. But I'm still holding on. Hopefully, this comes back around. But again, I mentioned this a while ago, and I mentioned this often, but if this position were to go to zero, at the end of the day, I do not mind, right? Like I'm already, I already held this probably, well, I don't know, like, probably for 6 months already. If this were to lose, like, yeah, it'd be a big loss in terms of the account, but in the grand scheme of things, like, I don't want to beat myself up over it so much, so. Moving on to the M1 Finance portfolio, we got another dividend for about $43.23 this last week. So there's that. We can see here, let me change this to week. We have $200 in cash. And so that's going to be used in addition to, actually, that's going to be used by itself. So $200 cash plus the 2000. So I'll have $2,200. Unfortunately, we won't receive the other dividend until probably Saturday. So yeah. Going into the portfolio, QTAL up 3.73%, with the majority of that obviously from TQQQ up 18%. Quite a lot. The reason that is such a heavy weight is because you can see these weights are very or unaligned. I don't know what you want to call it, but basically they're not close to their targets. But that's actually fine, right? That's kind of how this whole system has to work, having a hedge. You can't just constantly keep it at 50%, otherwise, it's not really doing its job. And the more you rebalance, the less gains that you can kind of, uh, or I guess losses you can hedge against, if that makes sense, at least with a very specific target. But high yield divs, which is basically just YMAX, we have 7.33%, which is the largest of these three portfolios or sub portfolios or slices, whatever you want to call them. So that's good. And then the balanced growth portfolio, which we can hop into here. As always, we can sort by the highest and lowest. So highest being semiconductors, with the majority of the growth coming from AVGO. I have 24%, which is pretty crazy, and then a 17% from NVIDIA. Now, if you remember these, I think these funds dropped about 2 weeks in a row, so this is pretty nice growth. But you can actually see the percentages in terms of our target percentages are pretty dang close to what we started them as. So that's actually a good sign too. Relatively speaking, obviously with growth or with total loss in mind. But technology is the next one. Majority of the growth coming from Microsoft and Google. And then we have industrials with the majority of the growth coming from RTX. So there's that. In terms of the losses, the highest loss was energy, which is the highest loss in that sector. That we're holding is ENPH. This is also the one that kind of goes. It seems to be the most volatile, to be honest. It has a lot of big jumps. So Yeah. We have real estate down 1.4%. The largest loss there being AMT. And last but not least, we have utilities, the largest loss being from Next Era Energy, or NEE, NEE. So, yeah, I actually should have started the video with this, but obviously you could see the last week was very decent, right? The market seemed to go green quite a bit. Now, that being said, we're still down, I think, for the month for quite a lot of sectors. You can see the red there. And also the tariffs, the reason, obviously, all of this happens, unless you've been living on a rock, of course, is Trump decided to put a pause for 90 days on the tariffs, except I think for China, which he raised by 125%. So I'm actually curious. If I look up here, I could have done on that tab, but that's fine. China, or like drag. Trying to, like, for example, the Roundhill Dragon ETF. Kind of curious to see how that kind of. This is actually somewhat surprising. I'm surprised that's like so, uh, you know, not dead in the water because that 125% tariff. So, but yeah, the thing is, we got to look up week by week, obviously, and we got to take this as a win. For most sectors, you can see that this sector, what is this, auto and truck dealerships, still taking a hit. But I actually heard, surprised, that's actually surprising because I've heard that a lot of people are trying to buy cars right now before the tariffs go into effect because obviously those are going to raise the prices of automobiles quite a bit. As well as I just saw today that a lot of houses are starting to come down with like zero down payment kind of things going on. I'm sure this is specific parts of the country. But what's interesting is that is kind of what happened during the like 2008 crisis. Obviously, house market fell quite a bit because houses were obviously, yeah. Anyways, you get what I'm saying. So, and obviously with the tariffs going on, people are obviously fearful of a recession, which technically we're in the midst of one. Probably you can take a look at SPY, for example, just to get a kind of grasp of that. Just looking at the last year, and you can see how much loss we had. We basically wiped away the entire year's worth of growth, right? Up until this last week when we basically started regaining growth again. So it's down 3%, or it's up 3% for the last year, but down 9% for the year, or basically the last 4 months. But, we're still pretty high up. You got to look at it like that. So that's good. As for the NASDAQ, as QQQQ, for example, we have same story is true, actually. It's like very close, actually. Which is, I guess, not that surprising if you think about the S&P 500 and how it's weighted. But anyways, very interesting. And this article obviously brings up a good point. What is going to happen next week? I can't tell you guys, obviously. I don't know. All I know is there might be some more, crazy, insane announcements coming out, right? Maybe he's like, all right, actually, we're not going to pause the tariffs. We're actually going to go full in effect. Who knows? Realistically, what it comes down to, I know I've been preaching this a lot lately, but I'm sure a lot of other people's portfolios are red right now, right? What it comes down to is consistent and consistent behavior in terms of putting in your money. Now, I didn't personally put in any money. When the market crashed this last was this? I thought it was like, yeah, I guess it was on Monday, right? I didn't put a lot of money in because I didn't want it to go lower, right? Now, obviously, a lot of people did put it in, and it actually did go lower, right? So that's what I decided that on Friday, or during the weekend, right? I could have bought market open, and Trump announced it, I think, Friday evening when the markets were closed. But you can see here that it went down even further, and then yes, it did make a recovery quite a bit, but still has not recovered from the point it was, and obviously we're still down quite a bit anyways. My point is, even if you made uh, a purchase, what really we should be focusing on is being consistent in how much money we're putting in, and not just saying, "Oh my gosh, this is the best buying opportunity on the planet. Let me put all my funds in." Right? That's just not going to work. Right? These people that did put it in right now might have got lucky, but that very well could have gone down twice as much. Right? But if you put it in every month, every week, or whatever your whole frequency is, it's gonna pan out over time and kind of, loosen, or it's gonna tighten the slack, right? It's going to basically weigh itself out. I don't know how else to say it, but basically it will figure itself out, and those little bumps are gonna be almost unnoticeable. So if you do it like that. If you do it in very big lump sum amounts, you could guess wrong and you could screw yourself. So I really don't recommend people doing that. But I digress. It's up to you. It's very, uh, you know, I'm not controlling your portfolio. You don't have to listen to me. I'm not a financial advisor. So yeah, but I would strongly encourage people to not do that, because I know that people get burned a lot. So with all that being said, you know, times are hard right now, but you just got to keep pushing through, and I'm sure we will, manage to come back around very soon. So, yeah, that's it for me, guys, and as always, I wish you guys a wealthy future.